Hi, my name is Shirey Keene. I just wanted to tell you my story from hell and back. I've had a lot of people ask me what has happened to me in my lifetime and why I opened with my partners Bella Sante Health and exactly what I've been through from the time that I was born until now. So, this was me. I was 300 pounds and I was wheelchair bound. And of course, this is me now. I'm going to talk about how I persevered through hell and back, every surgery that I've gone through. Well, not every surgery, but most of the major ones. And how we became to start Bella Sante Health in order to cure me and then further help people. I've battled numerous issues as far as health goes. The first thing I started off with was I was adopted. And back in the day when I was adopted, there was no medical history. Literally, they gave you the baby, they said, here you go. You might have cancer in the family, you might not. There just wasn't any issues. There wasn't any information. First thing that happened to me right away, didn't even leave the hospital, and I ended up with tuberculosis and almost died. I fought for close to 2 weeks, and finally I was cleared. My parents were able to take me home. I felt kind of sorry for them because, they had a sick baby, and, well, there's no return policy, so, but I feel like they signed up for the deal, so, hey. I was a very active child. I always went out. I not only rode dirt bikes, I rode horses. I played out all day long. I wouldn't even come in until it was dark time. So I was extremely active as a child, never really overweight, never had any problems. I was a country kid, so I was a real tomboy. At age 6, I think some of this kind of went towards what happened to me later on. But at age 6, I started working at my parents' boarding kennel, and they also had a pet store. So I was already lifting things and putting things on shelves and working constantly. And most children at 6 are playing. So, as a young child, I dug ditches, I did fence posts, I did cement, I lifted. I thought I was strong, so I lifted 50 pounds of dog food on one shoulder and the other, and I would carry it down to the boarding kennel, and I would unload an entire van doing that. I would unload an entire truck of hay, just bucking hay by myself the whole time. From digging ditches and doing things like that, I ended up getting what's called valley fever. It's very prominent here in Tucson, Arizona. In the dirt, it lays in the dirt and it attacks your immune system. Got really, really ill from that, and I ended up on a lot of medications, and took me a long time, compromised my immune system and my breathing system as well. Along with working there, my parents would also, in the summertime, send me to my grandparents who lived in Boron, California. The only thing that's in Boron, California is US Boraxo and a 4-way stop. That's it. My grandparents actually owned 2 of the businesses in Boron, California. One was a gas station, a full service, and one was a restaurant. So I would alternate days. One day I would be washing windshields and gassing up cars and filling up tanks, and the next day I would be cooking and washing dishes and prepping and just doing things that a normal, 8, 9, 10-year-old shouldn't be doing. They should be off playing. So I was really doing a lot of damage, I think, to my back at that point because I didn't know my history. I came home one day and I had gone to a 4-H meeting with one of my girlfriends. And I walked in the house and I told my daddy first because he's my daddy and I'm a daddy's girl. And I said, I need a horse. And he said, excuse me? I said, I need a horse by the end of the week. And he goes, what? I said, yeah. I said, I went with my girlfriend to the 4-H horse program and I signed up, so I need a horse. So my parents discussed it. They knew that I was extremely hard-headed and precocious and that I would get into things if I had idle hands. So I ended up getting a horse, thank God. My daddy worked 2 jobs in order to do so. And I went up the ranks. I started with just an old ranch horse and I worked my way all the way up to world champion. Ended up with a 3-time world champion all-around horse in Fort Worth, Texas, and my pride and joy was my solar knoller, I call them, solar eclipse. This is my baby here. So for 20 years I did showing, and I actually even was paid to show for other people. Around 12 years old, I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And the way I found out that I had it is I was riding, and when you ride, you post. So you're in this position and you're doing this constantly. And I was having extreme pains, like knives going into my knees. So they took me in and they found out that I had bone on bone in my knees. From that, they put these wonderful braces on because back then they didn't have the technology that they have today to be able to take care of it. So I got to go to school every single day and go up and down the halls going, "Arr, arr, arr." So when you put that with 4 eyes, I don't know which one tosses up better, but it certainly wasn't fun being a youth and having to wear these knee braces. And I had them on both knees. This was also the start of my back pain, and I really didn't have any idea why. Also, at about 14, I started getting blackout migraines. I mean, to the point where the optical nerve was so swollen that I couldn't see. I could hear everything around me, but I couldn't see. I would end up in a fetal position in the bed with my head feeling like it was going to explode. I had to be in a dark room with a towel on my head. I was nauseous, felt like I was going to throw up. I took every single med you could possibly imagine. I even did the days piercing. Nothing worked. In high school, on one of my trips to Boron, California, I was with my grandparents and we were going through a light. We had the right of way, and an extremely inebriated woman took it upon herself to drunk drive. She hit us and T-boned us straight on, flipping our car, spinning it around 3 times, and wrapping us around a telephone pole. At that point, I ended up denting my ribs and, of course, re-injuring my neck and back, so I then again had more injuries to my neck and back. Pretty uneventful through high school. Didn't have really much going on other than the previous things, except for my father decided that I had to take auto shop, and I needed to take 2 years of auto shop in order to learn how to change a tire, do my oil, take care of myself so that I didn't need a man. Little did he know I met a man. Well, a boy. My future husband. That was the big mistake. So we married, had a son. That was the blessing. And when my son was about 1.5 years old, we were in an apartment complex, and I started having extreme pain, and I didn't know why, and I didn't even know it, but I blacked out. My son had the wherewithal to go next door, open the locks, go next door, and get our neighbor. Our neighbor called the ambulance. They took me into the hospital. But on the way to the hospital, they gave me morphine. And I had never taken any drugs before, so I had no idea, but I was extremely allergic to it. By the time I rode from my apartment complex to the hospital, I had blood just coming out because I had itched my arms so bad I was tripping. I thought little green men were coming out of my arms, and I was screaming and telling them, get them out, get them out, get them out. Thank God when I got there, one of the nurses that was there, the other nurses were saying, oh, she's a drug seeker. One of the nurses that was there was one of my clients at the boarding kennel, and she said, no, she's not a drug seeker. This is who I take my dogs to. And so they were able to reverse the effects. I did have to have gallbladder surgery though, so they switched me over to St. Mary's. I had my gallbladder out, and back then it wasn't just a quick thing. It was literally, I believe it was almost 2 weeks in the hospital. And anyways, I woke up at this point. They had me heavily sedated. I woke up and there was 4 nuns around my bed, and I thought, oh my God, I'm dead. And then I realized, it's just nuns. We're good. We're okay. They were praying over me. I finally came to my senses and got a divorce because it was not the relationship for me. After 15 years and the stress of going through the divorce and all of the angst that happens through a divorce, my body ended up attacking itself. And I got what's called Lichen's disease. Lichen's disease is an autoimmune disease that attacks your arms and your torso, but not really your face or anywhere else. So if you've ever seen anybody that has like ringworm, I had these little white spots all over my body. And unfortunately, I was fatigued, I was depressed. It just takes everything out of you. So now, I'm single, baby. I had never been single. I had been with my ex since I was 14 years old to 29. So at 29, I was a 21-year-old. I was dancing on bars, I was going out dancing. Anytime I didn't have my son and he was with his father or my parents, I was out somewhere. The awesome thing about this is, thank God I was only single for 6 months, because what's out there is not very good. I was dating a doctor, and I had tickets to a concert that I really wanted to go to, and I got stood up. And so I went to Blockbuster, this is back in the day, got some movies, I went and got fat food, I got in my jammies, and I was not going to go. And my girlfriend came over and said, no, you're going. We're going to this, you want to go to this concert so bad. Okay. So she dragged me to the concert, and thank God she did. There was a divine intervention there, let me tell you. I was in a man-hater mood, so I had told her, you're going to drive because I'm going to drink. End of story. And I'm standing in line at the West, and I turned around and I looked, and I went, oh, hello. I saw these piercing blue eyes, this beautiful man standing behind me, and I'm not one to say this at all. In fact, when it dropped out of my mouth, I thought that I was crazy. I turned to my girlfriend and I looked at her and I said, you see that man 3 people back? And she goes, yeah. I said, I'm going to marry him. And she laughed. She's like, whatever. I thought you were in a man-hater mood. I said, I was. I can't tell you why I'm saying this. I don't know. But I'm going to marry that man. And she ended up having to tell that story at our wedding. So we got married in 3 months. I guess we knew that it was true love, for sure. And this year, on September 14th, we celebrated our 20-year anniversary. I thank God every single day for this man, because if I didn't have him, I know in my heart, I know I would be dead. No doubt about it. 1 year after we got married, I feel really bad for him because everything started happening. All of the caretaking, all of the back surgeries, neck surgeries, everything started happening, and he didn't leave, even though he had friends telling him, even my friends were telling him, leave her, go find someone else. He stuck around. So my first surgery was on Christmas Day. I was working up at the kennel helping my parents out. We had a whole bunch of dogs in there we had taken care of. I had cooked dinner for Christmas. And I said, you know what, I'm tired, let me sit down for 5 minutes and then I'll serve everybody. The next thing you know, I hear, and everybody's looking and they're like, what was that? And they look over at me and tears are rolling. And I couldn't move. So they took me to the hospital, and I had shattered my vertebrae at L1. I needed immediate surgery. They took me in, they fixed the area, and what happened with that surgery is it left me with extreme nerve pain to the point where if even wind passed by, I was screaming and crying. I couldn't have clothing on. I couldn't hold my child, so he didn't understand what was going on. And he was little at the time. He was maybe 2.5. It felt like hot pokers going into, it starts in my hip, it goes down to my toes, and not to be graphic, but it comes right up into my nether regions. So if ever I'm on a ride, you see me standing up out of the saddle, you will know that that's what's happening. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital that time as well. My second surgery, I started having severe lower back pain again, didn't know why. And I refused to go and get an MRI, so my husband decided that he was going to take me to lunch, and instead he took me to an MRI. So after the MRI, they told me that do not move, whatever you do. You need surgery immediately. We're going to do surgery. And I told them no. I absolutely refused. I said, my son is graduating from kindergarten tomorrow and I'm going to be there. I'm not going to miss any milestones in my son's life. So they told my husband, okay, well, take her in a wheelchair. Don't let her get out. Don't let her do anything stupid. And so he took me straight to the kindergarten graduation and took me straight to the hospital. At that point, they told me that I would probably never walk again. I told my doctor a few choice words and told them that I would walk again. Didn't know when or how, but I would, period. So they ended up putting in an H cage in my back, and they put in neoprene discs because my discs were really jacked up. So what they did is they took them out, ground them up, put them in neoprene, and slapped them back in. I did lose total feeling of my left leg and foot, and I was wheelchair bound. At this point, they now realized why I had been having all of this, because I had no history they found out that I had degenerative bone and disc disease, and I had the bones of a 90-year-old. Surgery number 3. I woke up from the previous surgery, and I was in a definitely 10 pain scale. I was screaming, crying. I mean, the whole floor could hear me. So they came running once I came out of sedation, and they took me right back into surgery, and realized that evidently when they took me off the table, the surgical table, and moved me into the bed, that some of the hardware had moved to, it hadn't tightened quite enough, and it was actually hitting the nerve on my spinal cord. And that's why I was screaming in intense pain. So that did leave me in a wheelchair full time. My husband now became my full-time caretaker, taking me to the restroom, showering me, you name it. Unfortunately, he had to do it. And he did it willfully and lovingly. And now we go to the 4th back surgery. Thought I was getting a little bit better. 2 years later, I ruptured 2 more vertebrae in T7 and 8, the thoracic region. They replaced more discs with the neoprene, and I kept working and kept working and kept working until I could start using a walker. I did therapy daily. I trained myself daily. I was kind of pig-headed, so not only did I go there, but I worked at home so that I could build that leg up and try to figure out how to make it work, because I can't feel it. I still fall flat on the floor to this day. I'll be walking and I forget to tell my brain to move my leg, and down I go. So I just start laughing and I pick myself up, and I'm like, well, you know, it is what it is. I was on 18 different medications. 5 of those were class 5 narcotics, and I was on them 4 times a day. So I have what's called med brain. So you'll see me pause and kind of look for a word every now and then. That's what med brain is I can be looking at my best friend and I'll be going, and she goes, Lynn, and I'm like, thank you, because she knows me enough to know that when I'm having an episode and when I need to know her name. So it's simple things that I can forget. I weighed 300 pounds. I'm now at 129. One of my meds was gabapentin. For me, it was devastating. It's a nerve medication, and I was using it because I have such nerve surges in my left leg. And it literally shut my liver down in 3 months, period. So I went in and had a liver biopsy done, and what they do is they can't sedate you or anything. They just go in with what looks like a turkey baster with a prod on it, and they go into your liver and they take a piece out and they test it. It's excruciating. At this point, they found out that a normal adult should be between 30 and 40 points on their liver enzymes. I was at 566. The doctor left the room 3 times to have it tested because I wasn't jaundiced, I wasn't showing anything, because it happened in 3 months. So he immediately put me on the liver transplant list, and it happened to be the only appointment that I was by myself. And I felt so proud because I had driven myself the whole bit, and I had to call my husband bawling and tell him that I'm on the liver transplant list, that I might die. I got off the gabapentin immediately. And then, here we go again. I ended up with torsion of the intestine. So this is a lucky, unlucky situation. What happened is my lower intestine torsion, so basically it does this, it's kind of like colic in a horse. and it does it until everything just bursts inside your body. I didn't want to go to the doctor, and my husband made me, and thank God again, because he saved my life again. By the time that we got down to the hospital, it had already started to separate, and I had the enzymes and all of the gook that's in there going into my body, so they actually had to clean me out so that I didn't go sepsis. Small note, had I had my history, I would have known to look for this, because my mother died, my birth mother died of this at 45. I had this at 43. Now, on the good side, I no longer could process food, so it helped me with weight loss. I got off the liver transplant list because I was able to get off the meds and get off a lot of the weight. And now I'm unable to eat some of the foods. I had to do protein shakes. I'm on tons and tons of vitamins and supplements. So, thought I was getting better again. Here we go again. My neck started hurting. And we went in and I found out that my discs had actually collapsed. And so they put in an H cage into my neck and fused C3 through 5. I spent another week in the hospital, and I always say that they put this pin in just to kind of hold my head on straight. They also went through the front of the neck. Had I known that they were going to do that, would not have done that because it grosses me out. So, literally, I want you to know, I spent 16 years in bed and a wheelchair walker came. I spent 16 years living through a TV, and that's how I traveled, was through a clicker. So it was my birthday. I wanted to go do something, so I decided I was going to take a bath. And as I got out of the bath, I fell. All of a sudden, I was in excruciating pain. I was laying on the floor in the fetal position, and my husband wanted to take me to the hospital, and I told him absolutely not. It's my birthday, I'm not going. So he gave me a wonderful birthday gift of calling the EMTs and the fire department, both, as I'm in my gown, 300 pounds, sexy, and they drugged me out. Again, thank God they did, because I literally had, on my liver and lungs, I had blood clots from falling. And had either one of those gone to my heart or my brain, I would have died. I was in the hospital for another week with INR issues, which is how your blood clots. Your INR should be, for a normal adult human, should be between 2 and 3, and mine was at a 12. And the reason that it was at a 12 is because they were giving me Loganox shots. This is my stomach. And they weren't monitoring it correctly. They weren't doing the tests and coming in and taking my INR. And literally, I could have bled to death from a paper cut, or I could have bled to death internally. And not only that, but they sent me home from the hospital without testing my INR. And I could have died. Any little thing. So that didn't turn out well for a few nurses. From there, I had to do INR checks every single day for 2 months. I had to go into the doctor and get tested. And then on the 3rd month, I could go 2 times a week, so I was really excited about that. But I pretty much looked like an intravenous drug user for all of that time, which was oh so fun, especially if you went anywhere. Finally got to the normal range of 2 to 3. And so now I'm trying everything in my power to get back to my goal weight and to get the weight off, because it's going to help my back and neck. I've done exercise, swimming, yoga, walking, pain clinics, hypnotherapy, massage, chiropractic. They even used a spine deal that went in with a computer, acupuncture, personal trainer, and the only way that I was able to walk again was because I took the initiative to do workouts at home. I still even drop things because I don't have a lot of feeling in my hand. I still even drop things because of the neck damage. So I'll drop a coffee cup every now and then. So now I'm at my lowest point. I have zero quality of life, in my opinion. I'm at least an 8 or 9 every single day on the pain scale. I lived through the TV. I never went anywhere. And if I did go somewhere like the movies, I knew I was going to pay for it for at least 2 weeks. I was going to be laid up in bed and not be able to do anything. I felt useless. I didn't feel like a mother. I didn't feel like a wife. I felt like I couldn't even breathe anymore. So I was also no longer creative. I'm an extremely creative person. I'm an artist. I do photography. I do all types of things. And everybody was gone one day. My son was at school. My husband was gone. So I decided that this sits on my nightstand. And I decided that I was going to grab it, and my husband and my son would be better off without me. My husband could go and find a good wife that could help him, love him, take care of him, and he could find a wife that could help take care of my son in the way that he should be. For 3 hours, I sat with this gun pointed at my head, just like this, and thinking for 3 hours. The only thing that kept me from not killing myself was this stupid cat. I always kept it on the mantle, because my son, every single surgery that I went in, he says, "Mama," he says, "my kitty, you take my kitty." He says, "My kitty will take care of you. He protects you." And that's why he has all of my hospital bands on. And the fact that I couldn't figure having my husband or my son come in and find me with my head blown up. It's the only reason I'm here, is because of those two things, is knowing what they would see and that stupid cat. Wasn't my finest moment, couldn't pull the trigger, because I looked at it this way. They had suffered through everything with me. And how selfish of me would that have been to do to them too? So I decided, no, I'm going to do a turning point. We're going to get out of this funk. My husband had suggested to me, let's get a bike. I kind of laughed at first, because one-legged woman on a bike, that's going to be fun. But I learned to balance on it. And I started off with a little beach cruiser. I went 3.5 miles my first time on the loop, and I actually felt better the next day. So we went out again. Found out that baby bunnies aren't that cute. I was riding on the loop, and I was having fun because I was feeling good. And I'm riding along and I look over and I'm like, oh, look at the baby bunnies. Bam! Ran right into the rail. I knocked my water bottle off. I was bleeding. I hurt my ribs because I hit my ribs into it. I was dying. But I had mule ears and I was not going to let him call the ambulance to come get me. So I rode that 3.5, 4 miles back because wasn't going to have it. So we ended up switching finally to a mountain bike. That gave me a little bit more freedom because I had some gears and I could actually make it up the hills a little bit easier, and it made it more fun for me. As I started to ride more, I felt better, I met more people, I started losing weight, and then I finally got a road bike. And God, it was like, ah! My first road bike was called the Punisher for a reason. She punished me. I could fly now though. Literally, I felt like the wind in my face and I was on 2 wheels instead of 4 now. It was amazing. So I started making goals for myself and I wanted to go on a no-drop ride. And one of the rides went across a street, and I had always said I'm never going to go across a street. I had PTSD from holding a man who died in a car wreck that we were involved in that was not our fault. And I asked this person to stay with me. They said yes, and they dropped me. Trembling, I made it to the Mercado. So I decided after that point, and after that jerk left me on the road, never again was I going to be afraid. So I started riding every single street. I did everything I said I was never going to do. I did hills. I did a mountain. I clipped in, which I said I was never going to do because I was so afraid of falling, especially only having one leg. I did Sora National East. I did Mount Lemmon, Kitt Peak, Madera Canyon. Now I've done it all. Around this time, my husband and I started looking at CBD and what it could do for me because I was still on all these medications and I didn't want to be because I was foggy. I didn't like that feeling. And he wanted to get me off of all my opioids and things of that nature. So we worked tirelessly. He went back to school in his 40s and he became an RN so that he could learn how to fix me. That was the only reason, was to fix me. That's how wonderful this man is. And literally, that's how Bella Sante Health was born, was learning how to fix me. I had some ups and downs, to say the least. I decided I was going to try mountain biking. So we went to Moab, and I was jamming, I thought I was badass. I was doing pretty good, and I went up this ravine, and I came down it, and all these other mountain bike girls who, do it all the time, a lot of them didn't make it, I did. I get down to the bottom, and I hit silt sand. And I don't know if you've ever hit silt sand, but it slides you. And my face, leave it to me, I found the only rock shaped in this shape within a 4-foot radius that found my face. Broke 17 bones in my face, ended up with a concussion, was dizzy for weeks, and still rode that way. Still, I had busted eardrum, you name it, and I was still riding 50, 60, 70, 80 miles. So I'm a little bit donkey-eared. So my accomplishment so far is now I'm on CBD. This little bottle here literally has saved my life, along with my husband. I literally have gotten off of all my meds except for I'm on vitamins, I'm on a nerve med, and I'm on CBD. That's it. I've done the 54, the 75, and then the El Tour de Tucson 100 3 times. I've done the Hotter in Hell in Wichita, Texas 1 time. I've done the Wilcox Flyer, Tour de Mesa, A Mountain. I was an ambassador for Live, which is an all-women's bicycle company. I am still a ambassador for Bicycle Ranch Tucson, and I've been doing that, all of those for a combination of 3 years. I take out new people, I teach them how to ride, I teach them how to shift. I am now sitting at 18,271 miles ridden on a bike, which I never even thought I could go 4. So when you get to the top of Mount Lemmon for the first time, you always have to take a picture at the cookie cabin. And of course, me being the dork that I am, this is mine. Because I usually ride things and look stupid, but I decided to look like I was dead. So that's my one-legged all the way up 3 times to the cookie cabin. What people don't see when they see me is they always see bubbly shy, they see happy shy, they see, let me help you shy. They don't see the shy that has to get up 2 hours ahead of time before a ride or any event, that has to take her CBD, that has to take her meds, that has to put her TENS unit on, that has to have her heating pad on, that has to stretch. I mean, it's just a menagerie of things that I have to do in order to be able to function like a normal human being. Just like you would jump out of bed and go do something, I can't do that. But that's okay, because I'm still here. So it's alright. I still trip across flat surfaces, that's okay. I basically also ride and function through life with a burned back most of the time. And people don't even know it. They go to give me a hug and every now and then I'm like, okay. But I've got donkey ears, so it's all good. This is my burned back. Literally, some of them are 3rd-degree burns. And my husband helps me wrap it so that people don't know and it doesn't seep through my clothing. Literally, our creams and salves from Bella Sante Health is what I put on to help heal it. And I keep a baseline of our tinctures every single day so that I can keep my pain down and my immune system up, especially because I've had a compromised immune system for so long. And if it wasn't for this company and my partners helping me and all the scientists and everybody coming together, I'd still be on 18 medications and still be going through life in a fog. So I'm extremely blessed in that way. And now we're even helping others, so that's an even bigger blessing. I started adding, along with cycling, some weight-bearing exercises. I cannot lift weights because my doctors say that it's not good for my degenerative bone and disc disease, but I can use bands, I can use my own body weight, so I've integrated some of those things into there as well. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that I would be riding a bike with one leg? Who would have thought that I'd be helping others learn skills and learn how to ride their bike, how to take care of their bikes? Who thought that I would ever be off of all the opioids? And I literally went cold turkey too. I went 2 weeks and went into my doctor and said, hey, I'm going off the opioids. And she says, okay, we'll titrate you down. I said, no, you don't understand. I went off of them 2.5 weeks ago, and I went on CBD. And she said, "Did you have withdrawals?" And I said, "No." So it's an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. Who would have thought that I would have opened a CBD company with my husband and my best friend? I mean, what better way to open a company than do something you love and something that you truly understand and know? And the best thing for my heart is that we're helping others do the same thing. We're helping others get through their triumphs and tribulations and their pain and their agoraphobia and, you know, their neuropathy, their back pain, you name it. Who would have thought I would have made it into Tailwinds? Tailwinds is a magazine for cycling, and they ended up doing an entire story on me just because I guess I'm a one-legged ass kicker. Or at least that's what I like to call myself. Who would have thought the media would have covered me? They covered me out at 24 Hour Hop, which is a mountain biking deal here in Tucson, Arizona, and then they also covered me for the Loop, which is the loop that goes all the way around Tucson. So, I have now lost 171 pounds. That's a person. That's a large man in most cases. And these are the pants. So, here's my pants here. These I used to fit into. Get my foot to go through. This is what I used to be in, right here. A whole nother person can get in here with me. I mean, what an accomplishment in itself. Just that. So now I'm making up for lost time. I have days where I have to push through the pain, but helping others, being kind to others, setting goals for myself, that's what it's all about now. And if you have questions, call me. I'm always here. I'm always here for people. And I know pain. If anyone knows pain, I know it. I know it backwards and forwards, unfortunately. And not only physical pain, I know mental pain. And that's where Bella Sante has helped me. My one big thing that I always tell people is, please, tell your story. Tell your story. Nobody knows what just telling your story is going to do. Who you might help. I've literally had 6 different people tell me, had I not seen your story on Facebook, had I not gone to your talk, had I not seen your story on Instagram or your website, I would have killed myself. And so, if that's all this ever does, if I don't do anything else with my life, I saved 6 people from killing themselves and 6 families from having to go through hell. So I think I'm really, really blessed. And I just want you guys to know that it's okay to talk up and to tell and to share. And even if it's only just with me or a friend, getting it out helps you so much mentally and physically. Please let me know if I can help you with your health through Bella Sante Health. or if I can just be there as a friend. I'm not all about selling things. I'm about just being there as a friend as well. So thank you for listening, and stay strong, and remember, tell your story.